Hola, amiga. Welcome to the Latina Leadership Podcast, a podcast by Latinas for all women. Get ready because today's conversation is really special. Hola, amigas. Welcome to another episode of the Latina Leadership Podcast. I am your co-host, Edna Mancia, and I am here with a really wonderful guest. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself and everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Edna. Muy bienvenidos todos con nosotros. Thank you all for being here with us. My name is Jessica Zenteno, and I am a holistic community advocate. My journeys came from humble beginnings. I grew up in a marginalized community. I was raised by a single mother. So I faced many adversities since a young child that really led me into the work that I'm doing today, which is advocacy, mental health, and really, really stressing community union. So common union, really gathering my neighbors and community together more than what they're used to, because right now with everything going on in the world, we need each other more than ever. Especialmente en las comunidades latinos, we tend to have a mindset of we can do it. We have the phrase we hear as children, échale ganas, and sometimes that allows us to be in a space where it creates just not loneliness, but doing the work alone. And that's what I'm trying to shift and bridge the gap to bring in more common union with our comunidades.
Yeah. And I love the work that you're able to do, but could you walk us through your journey starting in the nursing field to becoming a holistic wellness practitioner and a student activist, and with this big part of a community activist as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for asking. It's been a wild journey. I'm only 32 years old, but since then, from nursing in 2013 and to now, I've learned where I wanted to show up, where my voice was heard the loudest, where I could advocate most. So initially, I thought that was going through traditional route. We learned that doctors here to, support us, help us, make us feel better. But soon enough, I learned that that wasn't always the case. That traditional medicine, as much as we need it, it is unfortunately disease-based field. So I knew that's not how I wanted to help my community and my people. So it wasn't too long after I finished nursing school that I decided I want to go into the holistic route of helping people get better. And what does that look like? For me, it started in chiropractic, naturopathic, really that holistic base of medicine, really giving me new insight on what it was like to care for my mind, body, and spirit. So many years, I had no idea what mental health was really about until I myself emancipated so young from my mother and my father at 16. I had to navigate the world pretty quick. And for then, I never really paused to think, wow, my mental health has been such an important element that has gotten me to where I am today. And that was my mindset. Because yes, I struggled with anxieties and depressions. But through that, it was always my mindset that allowed me to persevere to get to where I am today. So trailing back, when I knew I wanted to show up in medicine differently, I started to wonder, well, what can I do to fulfill my own dreams? What can I do to be able to see my own clients, be able to reach people's hearts the way that I know how, the way that through my journey, my story. And it wasn't until about, 12 years into nursing, into fulfilling a lot of other people's dreams, making a lot of successful offices and businesses that I said, you know what? Ya no más. I can do this. I can try to implement this on my own, and I can branch out and do and be and achieve all that I want to do, right? So it wasn't until 2020, during the pandemic, when I had decided I am no longer fulfilled with nursing in this way. I tried to shift practitioners, shift practices to see if maybe it was that. But that's when I knew in my heart it was time for a change. And so I was blessed enough to open up a small brick and mortar in San Bernardino from 2020 to 2022. And there was a huge pivot into what it was to be a Latina in business, a mom, a first generation student, all of these things. And I think for me, it was a huge learning curve. It was a big pivot from spending all of these years building other people's dreams to now taking that risk and chance and doing it for myself. And so I wasn't a sustainable, successful brick and mortar just because I was so new. I was a new baby entrepreneur trying to navigate building a clientele, a family, a business, a home. So there were so many learning curves that led me to make that decision of closing it down in 2022 and going back to school. And so that's where led me to where I am now as a student advocate and community holistic practitioner. And so, not that I wasn't being fulfilled in treating my own clients, seeing patients, really being seen for the work that I do. Um, I felt like there was a component just missing in me. It was God was like, Jessica, there's more to this. There's more than this entrepreneurial side of you. There's more to the giving, the nurturing. And so I'm like, what is it, God? Because I need something. I was not in school yet. I was freshly postpartum with my second baby, and just kind of at home wondering, well, what is the next step? And so it took about a year for me to find that next step. But during that solitude of just introspection, a lot of grounding, a lot of inner work, it led me to my community. God was like, go back to school and get involved in community work. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? Where do I begin? And so I started right in my community here in Riverside. I looked up community college and, it'd been so many years since I had did my LVN course that I'm like, ¿qué estoy haciendo? ¿Cómo se hace eso? What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? And as scary and unknowing as it was, I did it. And at that time, when I finally signed up, I was pregnant with my third child. And I knew then that with a new baby coming into the picture, that I felt so rooted in that purpose of community work. So once I had her, I made a plan. I said, okay, ahorita I can't get into the community work right away, but I'm going to dip my feet into the school, get into some classes, meet friends, build my network, find more students like myself, first generation, a parent. And so I did. And then it was about 6 months after I had my third baby that I joined CALA, which is the program that I am assisting now. And it stands for Community Action Leadership Academy. I was up one night, and I said, what can college give to students that are looking to give back to their community? What programs do they offer? What incentives? What internships? And it was simply just a Google search. I searched up, internships for Hispanics, for LGBTQ, for people of color, for social justice impacted. And then it's when it led me to that. And so I applied and I got in around 2023 and it changed my life. I remembered that in 22 when I had my daughter, it was just a vision. It was just a thought that God planted in me, like community work. But until I found Kala, that's what I knew really what it was to be out roots, to be out in the front lines with food insecurity, homelessness, system impacted people. And it wasn't new to me. It wasn't new to me because I had faced all those things as a child, adversities, food insecurity, my father being justice system impacted. So it felt almost as if like, finally, I found my people. I found my work, my purpose that can also be merged with holistic mind, body, spirit teachings, nutrition, wellness, because I was trying to still be everything that I was and also merge it with who I was becoming. And so now that I've like bridged the gap and intersected it together, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I've been able to bring programs that really emphasize on more a social, emotional, a spiritual aspect where students can actually bring in those those elements into community work because it's important. It goes hand in hand. How can we serve our community when we're not taking care of our mind, body, and spirit? So it's been really awesome to just speak about those things, speak about my journey, speak about how I'm implementing a more social, emotional, or somatic teaching into everything, not just community work, but our daily lives. The big question remains at the end of the day is, how are we showing up for ourselves?
Yeah.
How are we filling our cup? And that's what I tell my students, my interns now, from when I was an intern learning about all the community-based organizations, the disparities, and then to now that I've learned, I am now integrating that and teaching it to the students. And so this year, we're really looking forward to a phenomenal cohort of 29 students that are going to go out into the communities, whether in food insecurity and homelessness, system impacted, even policy, community organizing, advocacy. It's needed more than ever now. And so I really emphasize the importance of grounding, really coming into terms with what you can do and letting go of control of what we cannot do. And that's really the foundation of community work. Showing up where you can with the time that you have. And so being a student is challenging. You have homework, you have studies, you have family, you have work, but we never let Kala, the program itself, interfere. It's something that supplements and enriches our students' lives. And that's what I really want to share with everyone listening, is that you too can make a difference in your community without it impacting your life in such a way where it becomes stressful or where it becomes, impacts your mental health. And so, yeah, I know I trailed off there a bit, but that's where I am now. I'm still doing fellowship work also with College Corps, which is a really big California regional state-based program, where it also follows students from community colleges into UC systems. So these programs, they take care of students because they know what it is like to be one. And with CALA and College Corps, they allow students to receive a monthly living stipend as well as educational stipends. So for me, I feel so proud to share that because as a mother of four, I haven't been able to maintain a normal 9 to 5. And so this type of community work has allowed me to make an income, but such a more impact for myself and others, which is where the real reward is at.
I love that. And so okay, so you specialize specifically in Reiki,
Correct.
work, and functional wellness.
Correct.
So for those of us in the community who may be unfamiliar, can you explain how each of these works and how they contribute to healing? So I know that's new to a lot of us. So can you just give us like a rundown of what that looks like?
Yes. So when I started doing Reiki, it wasn't until I was searching for something more to bring into my clients as far as really releasing trauma instead of internalizing it. And so Reiki is a Japanese healing modality that knows no time, space, or distance. And actually, any of us can hold the power to be a Reiki practitioner. It's more of understanding the elements of the body, mind, and spirit, and also energy. So with Reiki, it's known as a non-invasive hand touch modality. And so my clients will be fully clothed and I will be placing my hands over what is known as our energy centers. We have chakras and we have meridians, just like we have a circulatory system, just like we have blood flowing through our veins, we have energy that circulates through our body. And so Reiki really brings in a grounding, balancing, calming energy. Most practitioners will say that they do different modalities. It's mainly, like I mentioned, a non-invasive, over the body, non-touch modality. With somatics, though, it integrates breath work, it integrates movement, as movement is medicine. And so that's where my Reiki specialization changes, because I do believe that we can be our full, authentic selves once we release those blockages, trauma, fears, whatever may be hindering us. So that's how Reiki assists in that level, in that aspect. And with my Comunidad Latina, when I start to explain it to them in Spanish, yo les digo que es una energía necesitada para quitar las cosas que nos están cubriendo o poniendo en una caja. That's how I explain it in Spanish. And they will ask me, okay, pues, ¿qué significa esas emociones que están bloqueados? Pues eso significa que no están entrando otras cosas como abundancia, right? Happiness, joy, abundance. So when we remove those blockages, you're able to then be more clear-minded, attract abundance more freely, because it's through somatics that nervous system healing allows us to receive more, be receptive more. And so, like you said, it is becoming more known. It's making its way into traditional medicine. It's making its way into different clinics, hospitals. But the fact of the matter is we're still learning more about it every day. And I always tell my clients this is that you have the innate power to heal yourself. It's all about working with that practitioner, doctor, therapist, psychotherapist, Reiki therapist that can give you the tools to do that in a way that makes sense for you, because we all have a different archetype, we all have a different mind body type. And so working with that practitioner, I can tell you this is your like Akashic record, this is your like a reading, and there's so many ways you can go about it, so many ways. This is your like how doctors do, this is your full labs. So it's really, like I tell my clients, I integrate all of the holistic and all of the traditional together. And that's what makes it flow better. And what does that look like? You'll be seeing me for Reiki, but you'll also be seeing me for nutritional elements. You'll be seeing me for, more of a biological, psychological element. So really, it's a full inclusive package. And that's what holistic is. It's looking at the body from a holistic, whole mind, body, spirit view.
That's beautiful. And it's beautiful too that you're able to do both English and Spanish because that's so needed. And so like that amazing that you're able to do both languages. Um, and so when it comes to liberation-based healing, what does that mean to you and how do you apply it in your practice?
That's beautiful. Thank you for that question. And the liberation-based teaching, it comes from subconscious programming. And what does that mean? It means that through the art of Reiki, through the art of somatic work, I'm able to teach my clients what it looks like to return home back to yourself. Okay. What does that mean exactly? That means to be in the present moment, in the present breath, and knowing that you are here in this internal space. From there comes the liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from self-limiting beliefs, liberation from trauma, liberation from, it could be, recently I had a client, she had liberation from her generational curses, and what does that look like when I implement it in my practice? That's when I bring in different drums, different rattles. I bring in different herbs, different, we call it in spirituality scrying, where we work with fire, where we work with smoke. We bring all of these tools, or I bring all of these tools. I say we because I work with a group of practitioners, and we use them to help our clients feel liberated, to help them feel free from whatever it is that they walk in through those doors feeling like it's weighing them down. That's where we bring in that liberation teaching.
That's and would do you work with mostly your community or do you also see a lot of like how would a business owner or an entrepreneur be able to put this into their practice as well?
It's a good question. So really, it comes to remembering that you are your own brand. Okay. So I know a lot of, entrepreneurs right now are really fixated on a product or wondering what their niche is, but it really begins with you and your story. And so practitioners that are working in somatic, spirituality, tarot, whatever it is that those practitioners are doing, the way that they could integrate this into their business would be to meet their clients where they're at. Meet your clients where they're at so you can see what tools are best for them. Everyone is so unique and different. And that's where I aim to bridge the gap where most practitioners do not fill,
Mhm.
because they're being seen as a generalized population with generalized concerns such as anxiety, depression. But it's more in depth than that. So I would recommend, entrepreneurs to really assess the tools that they're bringing into their business, what's working, what's not working, and what do the clients need? Where are they feeling lack? Is it with movement? Is it with breath work? Is it with diet? Are they feeling like they're not being supported because they don't have the proper nutrition? I work with a lot of people that don't know what a balanced plate looks like. Our Comunidad Latinos comemos mucho de lo mismo porque así nos creímos. Pero la cosa es que podemos a cambiar. We have the will and power to change. It's just finding that person to work with that can help you stay balanced, can help you stay focused, and can really, really keep you on your toes with making sure that you're applying these things. And one of the questions that I ask my clients before I even accept them into my practice is, are you willing to let go of the things that are making you sick? Are you willing to let go of the environment, people, places, and things that are making you feel unwell? And some clients will say yes and some will say no. And I won't turn away, but I know where I need to meet them, right? And
Mhm.
that's the difference. And so I think with a lot of new age spirituality practitioners or just entrepreneurs that are looking to enhance their business or really enrich their clients' lives, I would recommend just really assessing what you're doing now, asking your clients what they feel could be better, and then meeting them where they're at 120%. It always, always helps.
And so, what do you think some of the biggest challenges facing your community right now? And what are the things you're doing, at least in your community, to address them?
Right now in my community, I notice a lot of fear.
Mm.
A lot of fear, and it gets me emotional because I see it, I feel it, and I integrate it because as an empath, I don't necessarily have to have a conversation in a group of people. I can sense that energy. And so what does that mean? When I walk into a certain group or a class, for instance, I start off with meeting wherever who I'm speaking with, where they're at, and really expressing gratitude for present moment, for where we are, where we've been, and the trajectory of where we're headed. That allows a foundation to really bring my people, community, or group setting, wherever I'm at, to a calm state of mind. And then I address that fear. I start to ask the questions, open ended questions like, what are we currently scared of? And what can we do to shift the narrative of what that feels like and what we can do to change things in our community? So I start with guiding my community groups, so my interns, for instance, into speaking, journaling, really expressing the fear-based thinking, okay, and coming up with then solutions, okay, these problems. And what does that look like? Well, like if someone tells me, Jessica, I'm scared. I don't even know where to start. I want to go help my community, but I'm scared of ICE, or I'm scared of, being told that I can't go show up. I have a lot of ABA 40 students as well. And so that fear of feeling like you're going to be ripped away from your community or ripped away from your family is valid. It is very much real. And I can only meet them with grace. I can only meet them with prayer. I can only meet them with intention and affirm that everything will is all as well. It will work out the way it's supposed to. And that's when I lean heavy on my resources. Heavy on my resources so then I can enrich them. Like, yes, you are afraid, but guess what? I have this person who you can reach out to. I have this food bank you can go to. There's this shelter you can reach out to. So then the community knows, like, yes, we are scared, but we're not alone. There is help, there's resources, there's people such as myself, the directors that I work with that really align the community with what they need.
Mm.
And honestly, a lot of people don't know where to begin or where that looks like for them. So right now with Kala is really getting the interns out to our Latino communities, our schools, to let them know, hey, there are groups that exist such as us that are working in leadership to bring the resources so that people aren't struggling, people aren't going hungry. So really breaking that patriarchy, the colonialism, really breaking those paradigms and shifting the narrative. That's what I'm doing right now. That is the mission in this work. Because if we're rooted in fear, then we will never be rooted in liberation. We will never be free from what is weighing in our minds and in our hearts, right? So that's where the real work lies in breaking those fears and really breaking those self-limiting beliefs.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it's a tough time for our community right now, and so I love that the work you're able to do and being boots on the ground for that. Um, but with tackling, showing up for your community and being there, how are you prioritizing your own mental health, your own healing, especially being a mom and having a family and going to school? And then so not only are you showing up for your community, but you have all these things that you also are. So how do you take care of yourself?
It is challenging to say the least. It is very challenging, but with firm, loving boundaries is how I do that. And I place them where needed. If it's at home, my school, my interns, my homework, even myself, when I have to pull back and say, you're doing too much. And I'll be honest, today's Friday already, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I unplugged. What does that look like? I disconnected from social media a bit. I lightened my load with clients. I lightened my loads with emails, wherever it was that I could pull back a bit so that I can feel more grounded and rooted. Because often at times, yes, when I'm filling other people's cups or I'm meeting deadlines or expectations or just simply being there for the community, it can be extremely mentally, emotionally, and physically draining.
Yeah.
And so for me, unplugging is super necessary. And also, it's important for me to go get frequent adjustments. I also see my practitioners to have Reiki on myself. I really make sure that I do that because then I won't show up 110% for my community or my family or my clients. And to me, that is how I choose to show up, is to make sure I'm filling my cup so that I can fill others. And matter of fact, sometimes it takes those hard no's as those, affirmative boundaries so that I'm not burning out. I'll give you an example. I had a client I was to meet with yesterday, but the night before my son wasn't feeling well. And so I hadn't slept. I was running on maybe 3 hours. Have I run on 3 hours before? Yeah, sure. But I didn't want to see her like that because I knew that I wasn't going to be in my full element. I wasn't going to provide the full experience because I was tired. I was
Mhm.
so I had to make that call and I had to, say I'm so sorry, but because I want to provide you, and not to say I'm so sorry. I told her because we apologize as women a lot. I try to with my clients, let's not be so sorry. What I said was, I affirm that I will feel much better for the next time I see you. Just today was not a good day. I'm tired, right? And she understood. She totally understood. But in my mind, I was trying to make all these scenarios of why I needed to be there, why I had to make it to her. And then I said, no, 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 it's okay. Let's pull back.
Yeah.
Let's reassess and reschedule. And it was fine. It was totally fine. And even better because now I know that when I see her tomorrow, I'm in a fresh headspace. I'm grounded, I feel good. I'm hydrated. I'm rested. And so to me, those are very important is to make sure that I'm unplugging. I'm hydrating well, I'm eating right, and I'm human. I don't always make the right decisions, like my In-N-Out burgers. I love my tacos and my burritos, but I make it to where it's a balance, I'm keeping that mindset of filling myself first so that I can continue to give to others. And I think that's so important for all of us mujeres, hombres, niños, grandmas, tías, tíos, to know that your self-worth, your filling your cup matters first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, boundaries. That's
Oh,
important.
huge. Huge. Because then if you don't have boundaries, then you will always feel like you're not doing enough or you could do more, or you're going to feel that lack or that pull or resistance and just stress, chaos, right? Mhm.
And it's great too to know that you're able to give that to your clients when you are not feeling 100% because you want to give them your best, but you don't want to also like burn yourself out either while doing something you love.
Yes. And I think that's so important is finding that balance for entrepreneurs, students, wherever you are in your life, is finding the balance between your job,
Yeah.
your school, and really just discovering where it is where you have to unplug when you need to and reassess or, re-strategize. And right now, astrologically, we're going through a lot. There's currently a lot of planets retrograde as well. And so if you hear me, you'll be hearing reassessing, reevaluating, reevaluating, re-strategizing, reorganizing. And right now, that's like the number one thing I would recommend for any entrepreneur, anyone to do is just to refine that balance.
So what role does cultural identity play in the way you approach healing and community leadership?
Cultural identity is huge. Okay. I know that the world is going into trajectory of, you know, removing from inclusivity, but no matter what, it is always needed to meet people who they are for their culture, for their background, for their race, for their identity, for their however they show up. Is so important to meet them there. And so, what does that look like in holistic healing? What does that look like in Reiki? Some patients based our clients based on their cultural background or generational upbringings will not be so attuned to sound bowl healing or won't be attuned to sage burning or won't be attuned to hertz frequencies or tarot. It really just depends. Everyone is so unique. So I love that in the new age setting of healing, we're bringing all these different modalities, all these tools to really be inclusive to cultures and backgrounds. And so what does that look like for me when I work with clients?
Yeah.
It really depends when I meet with you for a discovery call or I sit one-on-one with you. I can feel what is going to be most useful, most beneficial. For instance, I had a virtual client a couple weeks back. It was her first session of Reiki ever, and one being virtual. So there's so much we can do on a virtual aspect, but I knew because of the story that she shared, her cultural bringing of indigenous background, I said, you know what? I'm going to incorporate chanting. I'm going to incorporate movement. I'm going to incorporate rattles, rain sounds. And so it just really depends. But that is what cultural identity looks like to me and how I fuse it all together in practice and then just in life, really just meeting others where they're at and accepting them for who they are. Like, I think the world would be a better place if we just understood that a little bit more.
That's actually true. Yeah, but people yeah, and it's like as much and especially Latinos now, like we need to be able to embrace our Latinidad, our identity as much as possible, and not be afraid of it, even though they want us to be quiet.
Sí, absolutely. And there's a saying, calladita, ¿cómo se dice? Calladita no estás más bonita.
Yeah, something like that.
right? And it's just about discovering our voice and our truth and how we want to speak up for ourselves and others. And I think that's what I really channel to my interns. I have a lot of interns that are never done community work, and they're like, how do we speak to others, or how do we show up? Find out what you're most passionate about. Is it immigration rights? Is it policy advocacy? Is it homelessness? Is it mental health? Is it, justice impacted, system impacted people? And from there, that's where we lose the fear. Once we start implementing where we want to show up, then that fear of not knowing what to say or how to show up, it just starts to dissolve on its own. It's beautiful how that happens because the energy is already intended of good, of healing, of community, of unity, right? So honestly, I always tell anybody this: if you have experience or not, just find in your heart and in your soul where it is that you feel you'd make a most difference, or what concerns really bother you, or where you feel you can make a change, and start there.
And for someone who, is afraid because due to a situation they may be in, what is something that we can do as a community who has the privilege to be able to help them, and be part of the support in their in whatever they need, or maybe they want to help out but they don't know how to,
Mhm.
you know.
That's a great question. No, I would first recommend finding a group of individuals that are like-minded. So what does that look like? Because there's someone that comes to me and says, I don't know where to go. So I would first lead them into like an orientation class or group setting where then we can kind of understand what community work is. What does it look like? What will it feel like? For everyone is different, right? So that's why I always emphasize for my interns to really meet me at the orientations that I host. I call them mixers because that's where I meet students who are unsure, or even non-students. It's for the community. And so we gather in a group setting where we start to talk about the pressing issues around us, what we have been experiencing in our own lives. And so that fear is just always coming up. What do we do if someone's scared? Well, I ask them, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? What are you most afraid of? Is it afraid of running out of food? Are you afraid of running out of resources? Do you need medical attention? So asking all those questions so that I can provide the right support and give the right resources. So the wonderful thing about Kala is all of these community-based organizations, 13 of them that we work with specifically, provide in-house support. Most of them provide actual locations where they can go. For instance, one of our community-based organizations is called Rain Cross Boxing Academy. This is strictly for justice system impacted children from ages 6 all the way to 18. So what does this space look like? This space is strictly for kids that are struggling at home, struggling in their studies, struggling at school, maybe already have records, and they need a space where they can feel acceptance. They can be reminded that despite of your upbringing, despite of your circumstances, you can change, you can lead, you can have the same resources that are available to everyone for you. So that's an example of one of our community-based organization that gives that type of space. But going back to your initial question, it's just really seeing what types of resources are needed. With me being an energy work, it's kind of it's a blessing because then I'm able to already feel it, but I don't assume, and I wait to hear it, if that makes sense. Even though I may already have an very innate intuition or sense energy knowing, I wait and I listen because as a practitioner, that's how I want to show up, with empathy, with listening ears, with compassion, because I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And I may know a lot about, human body and energy, but I don't know and can't feel everyone. So I really just meet where I'm at. I try to meet the clients or students or whoever I'm trying to work with. I meet them where they're at and host gatherings where we can talk about these things. With that being said, I'm a part of a Riverside neighborhood partnership group. And through that partnership group, we work with our surrounding neighbors and
Mm.
talk about these pressing issues. what can we do about these things? Where can we meet our Comunidad Latinos, where we can host more community gardens or community resource outreach events, mental health events. And so that's where we're planning now, because unfortunately, it's without CALA or college corps or programs that are already they're already grown. They've already had a really solid foundation. They're in place. There's really nothing. Our community lacks these resources. So once I found them through Riverside City College, I've been trying to bring them out into the greater community more, because it's almost felt as if it's gate kept. It's almost felt as if it's almost meant like, okay, tú eres un estudiante? Okay, mama, it's only for you. But it should be a like a nationwide opportunity where these resources be allocated to anyone, anytime, right?
Yeah.
But mucho de la comunidad no saben. We're struggling alone, and we don't have to. We really do not have to, because there are people that want to help. There are these resources that exist.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about finding the resources, finding that community, and if you know someone who with the community pushing it out there, which you are doing, and that's amazing work that you're able to like put more voices into that so people know it's out there. So what advice would you have for other young Latinas who feel called to both heal and lead?
Oh, that's beautiful. My advice would be to never doubt your worth. Never doubt your strength as a woman. Never doubt your divine birthright to lead and to really share your story, because I think all of us individually have our own unique story. And through that story, we can lead and we can really be there for our communities, our families, and show up for ourselves more in a way that we haven't been taught to, in a way that we haven't really seen other women do. And I definitely recommend literature too, leaning into understanding what emotional learning is, understanding somatics more, because once we understand ourselves, our emotions, our mind, body, and spirit, we can be that leader that we aspire to be. We can be that successful entrepreneur that we aspire to be. But it really takes the first step of one, knowing your worth, knowing what you're doing, how you want to show up, and voicing your story. And never letting your circumstances or what you've been through be your story. You have the ability to rewrite the narrative. You have the ability to lead and inspire. And it really just starts with knowing your worth.
And would you consider yourself a leader?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wasn't always a leader. Maybe at heart, but I never labeled myself anyways. Now I'm proud to say, yes, I am a leader. But why not before?
Yeah.
Ah, I was still learning. I was still discovering my worth. I was still leaning into my confidence and saying, yes, I am a powerful being that is a leader, entrepreneur, mother, community advocate. I really had to break those limiting beliefs within myself before I could have that full confidence.
So you did the work and now you're at a place where you're fully confident in your leadership and
Absolutely. I have my days where I get in my headspace where I'm like, am I not showing up enough? Am I not voicing my truth well enough? Because sometimes in a space with a lot of other like-minded, strong, successful individuals, you may shrink yourself a little bit. And I'm not gonna lie, I've worked with a lot of successful people. And when I step into that space, I have to remind myself they are just human like me, and I'm just human like them. And I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I stand in my Latina empowerment. Yo sé que puedo hablar dos idiomas. So I lean into all those things that sometimes at times we forget that we have, because it's what we've been used to. For instance, speaking Spanish. I
yeah.
tell my intern, do you speak Spanish? Have pride in that. Tell others que sí puedes hablar español, que sí sabes dos idiomas. And it's just knowing in that worth and that confidence that I can show up in any time, in any place, in any room, and just remember my worth.
You know, what any other advice that you would want to give, like, since you have been able to, your journey from being a nurse to going to through postpartum, which is hard for a lot of women, and still pursuing that holistic wellness, still pursuing that student activism, still pursuing healing in the community, and doing all these things that you do. Like, what are some things that we should know as in the community, as Latinos, and maybe just something that you want to, leave with, so that we would know how to remember you.
Thank you, Edna. I really, really look forward to continuing to inspiring the next generation to return home to themselves, return home back to our roots, and that we may rise and lead from everything that we've been through into where we're going into tomorrow. And to remember that you have a voice, that your story matters, and that each and every one of you have a purpose and mission in this life, whether to help yourself and turn helping others, or through really, really, really remembering who you are and living your most authentic life. I aspire that others will start to treat themselves with much more kindness, grace, compassion. Where the world is headed, we may not know, but what we do know and have control of is our inner knowings, our inner self-worth, our mind, body, and spirit. So always reclaiming that, always remembering that we are sovereign beings. What does that mean? That we do not hold attachment to outcomes, okay? That we are here for a greater divine purpose, and that is rooted with your story and where you come from. So, rising from our roots, leading with love, leading with compassion and grace. And I think that that will be a beautiful world for our kids, a beautiful world for tomorrow. And as a mother, I inspire to lead my children that way too, to know that if there's anything in this world is to lead with love, kindness, compassion, and to know that if you have the ability to give to somebody else, if you have the extra time, money, resources to spare, like I tell my children, please do so. Please do so, because that is how we grow together. That is how our community, our neighbors will know that we can lean on each other more, that it's not a shameful, it's not wrong to ask for help, and it is definitely needed that we lean on each other. After all, is our communities that help us thrive. It takes a village. Not everybody has that village, but I'm here to remind you that you can create it, you can build it, and I can help you find the resources to do so. So thank you all for tuning in today, for listening to me, for hearing my story, for hearing me speak of, when I started in nursing, to when I went back to school, to having my children, and into now. I just really, really, really hope that from this this podcast, that you're able to really show up for yourself and your communities in a more enriching, meaningful way. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome, and thank you for taking the time for being here. So where can we find you? Where can we follow you, so we know how to keep up with you? And learn more about what you're doing.
Yes, thank you. I'd love to keep in touch with all of you. You can follow me on Instagram. My name is Jessica Zenteno, but I am known as ZenJess888. And you can also follow me on RCC College Corps and RCC Kala. And those two pages are the community pages, which you are all welcome to utilize as resources. These are all available to you. And I'm also on Facebook. You can find me under Jessica Zenteno, and look for me out in the community. I'm always out in Riverside. I'm either at a farmer's market, or I'm out here hosting healing circles, sound healing. Stay tuned for that. And until then, cuídense, take care of yourself, fill your cup, fill your mind, body, and spirit, nourish yourself. And I can't wait to connect.
Thank you for joining us in this amazing conversation today. If you need more information or resources, as always, they'll be in the description below. Please don't forget to follow us everywhere at Latina Leadership Podcast to stay updated with our latest releases, events, and more.
We'll see you next time.